In Myrtle Beach, you always go at your own pace. Lie out on the sand, lie out by the pool, go boogie boarding, go surfing, walk the boardwalk, walk the marsh walk, golf at one of 90 golf courses, mini golf at one of 50 mini golf courses, fish off a pier, fish from a chartered boat, go shopping, get drinks, eat the freshest seafood. The list is exhaustive, but the experience isn't. You can go all out or do nothing at all. How you relax is up to you. There is so much to do and explore, whether you're traveling with friends, family, or just yourself. With 60 miles of beach, you're going to find your place. If this sounds like what you need, then this is where you belong.
Twisted Tea and Myrtle Beach wholesaler Better Brands Incorporated know our consumers enjoy relaxing days on the water with Twisted Tea's original hard iced tea in hand. It's important to remember drink and boat responsibly. Choose to be or designate a sober skipper before leaving the dock. Do it for your family and your friends, your passengers, and everyone else on board. Twisted Tea salutes all sober skippers who take a pledge. Cheers, and we'll see you on the water.
Realtree has always had a connection to the fishing industry and the outdoor lifestyle. In 2016, Realtree expanded on the traditional business of creating the world's most effective camouflage patterns to create a fishing brand and family of patterns designed to connect the woods to the water and strengthen the bond between the two worlds. We couldn't be more excited to be working with the industry's top brands, retailers, and anglers to continue our growth, and we hope that you will join us. Enjoy Realtree fishing patterns inshore, offshore, on the lake, or at the dock. Learn more about the extensive line Realtree fishing patterns, apparel, gear, and more at Realtree.com. Trilogy Outdoors.
All right, folks, welcome back to Trilogy Outdoors. And I tell you what, I have we're taking it easy this morning. It's just the senator and myself sitting back in the Trilogy Outdoors podcast studio, a.k.a. Trophy Room, Gun Room, and we're going to talk about anything that pops up pretty much, aren't we? But you had a really good fishing trip this weekend, and I don't blame you. I'd want to talk about it too.
Yeah, we had a great podcast with Adam Brown last week.
Absolutely.
Talking about Wahoo tactics and whatnot. So we put some of that to use yesterday and Monday. Fished on Monday and then fished yesterday, which, in this world is Sunday, depending on what time you're listening to this.
That's right. You're
right. But yesterday and about 4 or 5 days before that, we Wahoo fished a couple times, did some deep dropping. Had good, we started out on Monday with really flat ocean, really flat seas, and ended up picking a Wahoo up right off the bat as soon as the sun rise. We talked about that. That first bite is always the hot bite.
Yep.
And we started pulling meat on Monday, not high speeding, just started pulling meat. And as soon as the sun came up, as soon as we had some decent fishing light, we got bit and caught a decent fish, 42 pounds probably.
Oh, wow.
And
good one.
And then the bite shut right off. And by 9:30 or 10 o'clock, everybody was bored, and so we went to bottom fishing and deep dropping and had a good time. Caught some snowies, caught some tilefish, and then we came inshore and slayed the endangered red snapper, among some other things, and lots of different bottom dwellers. And then yesterday we went, and because we had heard the Wahoo were picking up a little bit more, we fished up to the north in about 180 feet of water. We pulled meat right off the bat again, caught 2 fish right at daylight, back to back, both 45, one maybe 50, closer to 50. And then once the sun got up high, we started high speeding. And about 9:30, we picked up another fish, which was probably 55 pounds. And then the bite shut off, and same thing, by 11 o'clock, we were bored and went deep dropping. But this time, I checked some old numbers of mine. I've got a bunch of numbers offshore, off of the Scarp up north for us. Yeah, English is looking through my drawers for
It's not in here anymore.
The number anymore.
He took the book out. You can't do that. That's not fair.
It's in there, I'm sure.
That is not fair.
But we checked some of those numbers in about 700 feet of water, and first bite was a snowy. Second bite was a tilefish. That's a porcupine quill. Doesn't have anything to do
So
with it.
only in the senator's office will you, if you try to go look at his ledger with all his bottom numbers, you will get porcupine
Get a
quill in your
porcupine
finger.
quill right in your finger. It's like a booby trap.
That is a booby trap drawer there.
Yeah.
Oh, keep going. I'm sorry.
So second fish was a really nice blue line tile fish. Third fish was a barrel fish, which I was really happy because I've not caught a barrel fish in 20 years. If you don't know what a barrel fish is, it's a deep water fish. They live in 600, 700, 800 feet of water. Got a big eye on them.
So the picture you sent me, they look like a jack of some sort, like condensed. Like, I don't know, like almost like an Almaco or something like that is just like somebody takes a hand and puts on both sides like an accordion and squeezes it together. Is exactly what it looked like.
That's right. And the weird thing about it, when you put them on ice, you can see their bone structure through their skin. And I should have taken a picture of it last night, and I forgot about it. But when I pulled them out of the cooler, both of them, you could see all of their bone structure through their skin.
Wow.
Like I don't know if it presses through or it becomes translucent and you can see it, but you can see all the ribs. You can see the backbone. It's funky. But yeah, really, really interesting deep water fish. Really superior eating fish. Yeah. Everybody wants them if you can ever get them. Ate us. I think he ate a squid, if I'm not mistaken. We had squid and we had cut bait, and I can't remember if he ate. I think he ate the cut bait actually. Now that I think about it, but in 700 feet of water, and then we caught another, and then we caught another. So we got into them. And we ended up with a lot of good groceries yesterday.
Yeah, you did.
So, I mean, 3 wahoo off the bat and then a bunch of deep water species, good eating, and freezers full. And everything.
You would have some people argue that those wahoo are the best, but I mean, I've had snowy grouper before. I've never had barrelfish, and I have actually never had tilefish. Believe it or not, I have had eggs. I've had, is it escargot? Not escargot. I've had eggs from a tilefish.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, I have, but I've never eaten a tilefish. Yeah. And I hear it's incredible. Now, a lot of different reasons why that fish tastes better, from what I was told, is obviously the cold water at that depth.
Yeah. Well, if you cut one right off the bat, when you bring them up, their flesh is ice cold. I mean, their meat is just ice cold. And they eat squid and crabs, right? So you sort of are what you eat. You eat a bunch of good stuff, and I mean, it's like hogfish.
Hog snapper. Yep.
Hogfish eat just about nothing but crab and lobster, and they've got just this amazing white flesh that's real firm, almost like lobster flesh. And so, tilefish is the same way. Barrelfish is the same way. All that deep water stuff is usually really good eating fish. And I mean, wahoo's okay. Mahi's good, but I mean, I don't think there's anything better than those deep water species, in my opinion. And hogfish is hard to beat, by the way.
No, dude. I mean, I used to hog snapper for lunch, tacos, whenever they would have them. And Chris was doing some stuff up there for lunch. Whenever they'd have hog snapper, man, it was a no-brainer. But typically, I'll tell you exactly who I got them from. I knew who was supplying them. Was George. What's George's last name?
Yeah.
George was George. When George would get them, I know, so I would always go, okay, all right, I want some hog snapper. But it is incredible. But, I mean, they eat lobster. What do you expect?
Yeah, that's right.
And there's another one I've not eaten, a local lobster. Of course, you tried to get me one that trip I took you on. You tried to get one.
I couldn't need to do that. I keep forgetting.
Couldn't get one. I hear it's a little bit tougher.
Especially the really big ones. If you get like 8, 10 pound, 12 pound, we get them up 12 pounds and more here, and you get one that big, and they get a little tough and stringy. But if you can find one that's 4 or 5 pounds, they're good.
Jeff Martini loves those snowy groupers up there at his restaurant. When he comes back with enough, it's always a sold out night. He posts plenty of Facebook videos. He's another big diver like you as well. Mm-hmm. So I can tell. Well, of course they catch those deep dropping, not diving. But I know they're good, and I know I need to try some. So think about me next time.
So I'm
You had a boatload of people, so I'm sure the fish is gone.
yeah. I think I'm down to 4 bags of fish now, 4 gallon freezer bags of fish, and we ended up with like 12, I think. So yeah, I mean, it was a good day. We used a lot of the tactics we talked about. Purple and black and red and black and red and purple were sort of the hot colors for wahoo. 2 were caught on meat, down low, 1 on a planer and 1 on a 48-ounce trolling weight. The other was caught high speeding with like a purple and black high speed lead head and going 15 knots. And so it gives you a little indication of what the wahoo are doing right now. But since the wahoo are picking up, I've got the itch to go shoot one with a spear gun now.
So, you mentioned that before, and also with dolphin, y'all call it. There's a term for that. What do you when you
Polyball? What I call is polyballing.
Polyballing. So
Yeah.
you're shooting and connecting them to a polyball.
Yeah. So
I thought you were holding on to a poly. I thought it meant y'all were holding on to a polyball and floating around out there and waiting for them to swim up to you. Honestly,
we used to do that too. So we do it a little different than the Florida guys do. I mean, they're doing it on a lot. They're fishing 3 miles off the beach.
Right.
So they're doing a lot more than we are. We've got to go 60 miles to get into the wahoo and most of the time into the mahi. But depending on the time of the year and what fish are around and what bait are around, wahoo most of the time you can stick them up top. You just float on top in a chum slick. So the traditional setup would be the boat sets up just like you're live baiting.
You just lost me. Keep going, though. And I'll explain to you why. But you just lost me at chum slick. But keep going.
So the boat sets up just like you're live baiting out on the break, right? I mean, you set your current, you set your bow, you set your wind just the way you would want to, and then you start chum slicking and you start cutting up, start throwing live bait, start throwing cigar minnows, and put a chum block out in a laundry bag and sit in that chum slick. So the setup beyond that, is flashers. So they're spearfishing flashers you put in the water, which will hang down 15, 20 feet, and they'll have squid and they'll have reflectors on them. You put a couple of those out in the chum slick with you, and then you get a polyball. What we do, what I've always done is you get a polyball, which is hooked to a 100-foot, 50-foot, or 100-foot float line with a shock leader on it, which is hooked directly to the gun. And when a wahoo comes close enough into the chum slick or to the flashers, you shoot the fish and you just let go of everything. And the boat follows the polyball until the fish is done, and then the boat picks up the polyball, brings the fish in, resets the gun, hands you the gun and everything back, and you start the whole process over again. So it's a little different than the way they do it in Florida. But for us, it just works. It's not – and we're out in deeper water traditionally than the Florida guys are spearfishing in. We're farther off the coast. We've got more current. Because you're pretty darn close, if not in the Gulf Stream, depending on the time of year. And so you really need a lot more assistance from the boat. You got to have a real good boat driver. You can't anchor. I mean, you're literally just floating out there. Sometimes in 1,000 feet of water.
Right.
Sometimes it's 200 feet of water. Sometimes it's 1,000 feet of water, depending on what you're fishing for. So it's a little more of a production. You got to have a boat captain that really knows what he's doing. But when the wahoo are hot or the mahi are hot, it's a lot of fun.
All right, so you in scuba gear or you just in a wetsuit?
No, if you're wahoo fishing just in a wetsuit. Now, tuna fishing, which I've done before too, and mahi fishing is when what you're talking about earlier, polyball on a lead sled. So same situation. You run a polyball with a line down to essentially a piece of like 2x6 or 4x6, a big piece of wood.
And you sit on it.
You cross your legs and you sit on it. And, the way we did it before is you'd have one person sitting at like 50 and one person sitting at like 100. And so you'd sort of cover the top of the water column. And as those fish would come through the chum slick, somebody, if they were down deep, somebody'd get a shot. If you were up high, somebody'd get a shot. But wahoo, for the most part, you can get them up to the surface, so you don't have to be in scuba gear. You just free diving. I mean, you might need to swim down 15 or 20 feet, but that's about the most of it.
How far can you free dive? Being a scuba diver like you are.
Me personally?
How far do you think comfortably you could free dive?
In clear water, I could probably touch the bottom in 80 or 90 feet of water. But
you really?
But I couldn't hunt down there. I mean, if I practiced and There's a couple little things. There's a free diving course out there right now, and I can't remember the name of the organization.
Well, I'm sure it teaches the breathing part.
It does, but in just a few minutes, you can literally double the amount of time you can hold your breath. In just a few minutes of practicing this, simple breathing techniques. But then, so you're going to take your traditional breath hold, which for you, 50-year-old man, smoker. Yeah.
It's not going to be long.
I mean, it's, I don't know, 30 to 60 seconds at most right now. You could probably take it to 2 minutes, just like that. I can probably do 2 minutes without any breath holding technique, but if I work on it, I might be able to take it to 3.5. So you're not going to be able to hunt. I'm not going to be able to hunt down at 80 to 100 feet, but I might be able to get down there, touch the bottom, grab a fish, come back up. I'm comfortable hunting in that 50-foot range.
Yeah.
But not a whole lot more than that.
So
I just don't do it as much.
If you do that with no oxygen being pushed into your body,
yeah.
Do you have to worry about the bends at all?
No, not unless you're combining scuba and free diving.
Okay, so if you dove
yeah,
with tank and then decided to, I'm going to free dive.
You got to be careful about that. But what you do have to be careful about free diving is blacking out. So you're always supposed to free dive with a buddy.
Right.
You have shallow water blackout, which is when you're coming up and, you get 20, 30 feet from the surface on the way up and everything is squeezed and it's coming loose, just think of it as
right. No, exactly.
like a balloon that's, is expanding and you can black out and you can drown between that, 20 and 30 foot range coming up to the top. They actually make vests, just like the PDFs that have the little CO2 cylinder in them.
Right.
They make vests like that, and if the vest senses, you're on an ascent, and the vest senses that you have blacked out, and I don't know how it does it. It's got a little sensor in it, but if it senses that you've blacked out and stalled, it'll pop that CO2 and it'll take you to the top.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's a semi-new technology that free divers are using nowadays, and it's
It really seems to me to be natural. Obviously, you're not having all the extra air bubbles and everything else. And I follow a couple people on social media that do it, and some of the videos are just incredible. And I was like, how are they staying down that long? I mean, this guy was going down in Hawaii and going into caves, and literally he would show how far one end of the cave was before he went in. And then go in the cave and sit there, and it was minutes before he came out the other side.
Yeah, you got to be in incredibly good shape to do it. I mean, you really do, and it's not just. And the thing about free diving is it's not just shape. You got to be in good shape, but you also have to be trained to do it. I mean,
right.
you have to train your body and you have to train your mind. It's an interesting sport, an interesting technique. I prefer scuba spearfishing, quite honestly, because we around here off of South Carolina, we dive in deep water.
Yep.
Most of the time. In the wintertime, you might be able to get away free diving in some of that 60 to 80 foot range. But that's even pushing the limits for most free divers is 60 to 80 feet. Hunting in 60 to 80 feet. But we're 90% of the time, we're scuba spearfishing in 100 to 150 feet of water.
Yeah.
And it's just not a thing. There's only a couple people on Earth, really, that can do that and can do it without being able to see the bottom. That's the other thing. You can really expand your spearfishing, free diving, when you can see everything from the surface, right? Because you just cruise along on the surface till you see a fish you want to shoot,
go down.
and you go straight to him. But when you're taking blind dives down to 150 feet of water, looking around, you're burning up a lot of energy and oxygen. There's very few people on Earth that can actually do that. So it's really not a possibility for us here like it is for the guys, Florida or Bahamas or whatever.
Dumb question. If I'm diving, I've got a snorkel on, obviously. You're going to have a snorkel mask on? A snorkel along with a mask on.
If you're free diving, not
if you're
scuba.
free diving.
Yeah.
Are you able to hold air in that snorkel that you could use? Okay, I didn't know. I was always wondered that.
No, it fills right up with the water.
So the importance of that is pretty much just for you to swim on top and be able to get air.
That's it.
Okay.
You just that way you can keep your mask in the water the whole time and see what's below you.
So the free divers that I follow, and I wish I could remember her name because maybe some of you listeners might even actually know and follow her too. So her and her boyfriend who do it, they were in Mexico, free diving, spearfishing tuna.
Is she Asian?
Nope. No,
Okay.
she's not Asian. A blonde.
There's a big one named, I think her name's Kimmy Warner, and she's of Asian descent.
Okay.
She's a big spear fisherman.
But so they actually had they picked out their wetsuits for a camouflage. Like their wetsuits are camouflage. Like literally, like you. I mean, if they were in the water, like swimming, you really couldn't tell. Like when they look over at them, they would blend in. I guess with a fish's eyes, they would blend in. But they did. They had they got tuna. They shot a wahoo. And they shot something else, some type of snapper. But they did exactly what you said. They would swim them along the top, find what they want, and then dive, descend, go down and get it. And the polyball would fight the tuna and the wahoo, and then on the snapper that they got, they just hand lined it in.
So the interesting thing to me about it for wahoo is it gives you a real shot at a real trophy wahoo. Right, and I'm the kind of guy, and
it's a shame that wouldn't be considered. I mean, it is considered a trophy, but it wouldn't. It's a shame that, I mean, y'all don't. I'm saying divers, spear fishermen, everything else don't have your own set of records. Because I think you deserve it. Like, I mean, it should be there. Like, I mean, honest to God, like there should be a set of records that y'all, I mean, even if y'all as a group just say, hey, we're going to start, a spear fishing association of the East Coast or Southeast or whatever, maybe you could get some of the SAFMC people to go with you to go see snapper. But anyway, start your own group and y'all set up your own records, like have your own records.
Well, there are none for scuba. At all, and there, I mean, even there's a big divide in free divers versus scuba divers for spearfishing, and actually Kent was on this podcast, talking about diving. I don't know, a couple months ago. And he and I were leaving the dock one day, and this guy, we had all our spear guns in the back and 15 or 20 tanks on the boat, and this guy at the dock, that's cheating, and I said, all right, man, we've got Trimix on the boat. We're going out to, 180 feet of water. I said, you come with us. I'm going to strap a tank to your back. You take the spear gun and swim down to 180 feet, shoot a fish, come back to the surface, live to tell the tale, and then tell me how it's cheating. Okay? It's just not. I mean, the truth is it's just not. It's not easy. It's significantly harder than going out to the break with a rod and reel and a hook and a box of squid. It's significantly harder. But you get to be a little more choosy. If the fish are there, you get to be a little more choosy. And so, that's what interests me about doing it for wahoo is floating around in the chum slick, in the Georgetown hole, or in the Winyah scarp, in 200 feet of water. And 4 or 5 wahoo pile up in that chum slick. You might pick up the 30-pounder, you might pick up the 40-pounder, but if there's a 70 or an 80-pounder, I'm shooting the 70 or the 80-pounder, right? So that's the advantage. If the big fish is there, you get to pick him.
Right. That seems to me that would be the objective of that. Now, you still need him to get in close enough for you to shoot him.
You need him to get in close enough for you to shoot him. You need your gear to be right, which you can't understate that, because when you shoot a lot, it's just like, think about this. You ever free gaffed a cobia, for instance?
Okay, yes, I have.
Okay.
Talked about that today on Liz Calloway show.
Almost everybody says, you can free gaff cobia, but it's a mistake.
Right.
And it's true. I've done it before too. I mean, it will break
everything. Go ahead and throw the gaff away.
Yeah, I mean, throw the gaff away. It's going to bend the gaff hook. Make sure it's somewhere where it's not going to break anything in the boat, because it's going to break everything in the boat.
Yep.
And, I mean, it could even break you, right? It's a mistake. Same thing with, imagine 80-pound wahoo swimming by the boat and you free gaffed him and throwing him in the boat, okay? That's what it's like to shoot a 70 or an 80-pound wahoo. You're not fighting him to the boat for 15, 20, 30 minutes, wearing him out, then sticking a gaff in his head. You're shooting him and you're holding on, right, and fighting him to the boat. So your gear cannot be understated. It's got to be right. And then on top of all that, you got to keep them out of the mouth of a shark, and you got to keep you out of the mouth of a shark.
Oh, there you go. You brought up my point. Again, Liz Calloway this morning, I told her, I was talking about you and sharks. She wanted a funny fishing story, so I told her one, and I said, I'm not Stephen Goldfinch. I don't jump in and swim with sharks, but I told her about having to jump in with a 12 to 13-foot tiger shark to get line out of my motor. And everybody trolling around me to get video of me with baits in the water. And I'm like, call them on the radio and tell them to get that out of here. But that's the other thing. You're sitting there in a chum slick behind a boat. And, I mean, Jay Bache and I and Kelly had I would say 12 to 14-foot hammerhead come and eat 2 tuna that we had on at the same time. Ate one and then swam to the other one and ate it. I can only imagine, that was a boat running 8 miles an hour. I mean, if you're sitting there just floating in chum slick behind the boat with live bait and chum and everything else, I mean, I don't know. I don't know, dude. You crazy.
I'll tell you. I'm gonna tell you a story.
You're crazy.
About. I know how. I think we've talked about this a little bit. We've gotten way off of where we started, Inglis. But
yeah, that's all right. We're talking fishing.
So the more time you spend in the more water, the more sort of adapted you get to reading sharks' behavior. And most of the time, it's not a problem, right? I mean, they're just cruising, swimming, chilling, doing their thing just like you are. But every now and then you can tell when an attitude, personality changes, and you got to watch out what you're doing. And there's a couple of sharks I have no idea how to read, okay? And one of them is a gray white, obviously. I don't know how to read that because we don't see them very often. And another is a mako. You don't normally see bottom fishing, bottom diving, bottom spear fishing. You don't normally see makos because we're in that 100 to 150 foot range. But when you get out pelagic shooting in the 200 to 800 feet, 200 to 1,000 feet range, that's where you're going to see the makos. And that's a whole different animal. Like, that's a very different animal.
Fast.
Lightning fast. So I'm was actually just fishing one day. This was many years ago, and a judge. He was a lawyer. He's a judge now in South Carolina. And he was on the boat with me, and it was hot. It was one of those days. It was just slick still, and we were mahi fishing. And it was just like Lake Atlantic. I mean, just slick still out there. And we had stopped at a weed mat that was probably a half acre, and I said, let's jump in and let's look under this weed mat. Let's see if there's any mahi under this weed mat. And I gave him a mask, and I had a mask. There was a couple other guys on the boat. And I had on a pair of fins. He didn't have on fins. I had on a pair of fins that were in the front of the boat. I had my spear gun. We had caught 18 or 20 mahi already. It was just hot. Everybody was eating a sandwich, chilling, middle of the day. And we jumped in, and there was 8 or 10 mahi under this mat. You had to swim under it a little bit to get to them. And I said, watch this. And I swam under, and I shot the bull that was maybe like a 15 or a 20-pound bull. It wasn't a huge one. Shot the bull, and then popped my head up through the sargasso and looked down and was sort of pulling that dolphin to the top, working him down. And I saw underneath, like down in the deep blue, 3 things, like missiles coming up. And then they materialized from 100 or 200 feet down. They materialized, and I realized they were makos. 3 of them together.
Wow.
And they came straight to that bull mahi, and they hit it like 60 miles an hour and decimated him underneath my feet. Turned him into just a bloody pool of nothing underneath my feet. And I looked back at my buddy who's a judge now. He's a big fella. He was walking across water, getting out of the ocean to get back in the boat. I've never seen somebody splashing so hard to get back into the boat.
I'd have been with him.
But I've never seen, I mean, it was so incredible to see these 3 sharks hunting together. But I mean, they came straight up from the bottom.
And that was out of here.
Yeah, that was out of here. Straight up from the bottom and hit that fish so hard it about knocked me out of the water. And, of course, I let them have it. I got my spear back. After they ate everything but the head, I got my spear back, and I went back to the boat. But that's a dangerous fish, right?
So you rarely hear of people actually catching makos.
I've caught 2.
I know, but you just saw 3 in one shoot.
Mm-hmm.
Like 3 in one like I wonder if they're there and they just don't bite. But I've hooked one. We had it beside of the boat, and we had this wise decision, great decision that we were going to try to be like tuna wranglers, or we were going to try and put a rope around the thing first and tie it and drag it backwards. Pretty big. It was 200+ pounder, which I hear is a big mako.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So we had this lasso made, and we were putting it right. We didn't have a pistol. We would have dispatched it first, but we were running the rope across the mouth, and of course he got a little excited, or she. I was told it was a she, and I'll tell you why. But so she got a little excited, and when she went to take off and jump or run, the hook, it was a double hooked, with the 2 hooks on it facing each way.
Yeah.
And the hook got hung in the doggone rope. The one that was free got hung in the rope, and it pulled the other hook out the mouth, and the dang thing came right out the rope and swam off.
Yeah.
But I was told it was a female because she jumped.
I've never heard that before.
Because she jumped, and they say, and I was with a native New Yorker who was a big shark fisherman up there, and he said, "It's a female, it's a mako." And I'm like, "How do you know?" He's like, "Because it's a female, and she jumped." But man, did she jump! She jumped crazy. Like we thought we had a billfish at first.
Yeah, yeah. I've caught one that jumped and one that did not. I'm trying to think.
Well, she covered so much depth. Like we fought her for a while. Like she was on top jumping, and then the next thing you know, we're going down the ledge, going off the ledge, going out, and you can see her on the bottom machine, 280, 300, 330, 340, 350, just swimming straight down the bottom. And then finally, we followed her long enough, and we got her to come up and got her to the top and side of the boat. But I didn't have a pistol on the boat for the first time to dispatch her, which I think would have been the smart thing to do in that situation. If
They're
you were
good to
kill
eat.
It.
They're good to eat.
So we did have the argument over short fin or long fin, because that is in essence the difference here. That's legal versus illegal.
Yeah.
And we were assured that it was a
short fin
that is legal to bring here, and not a long fin. So and apparently they're really rare to see. But it was my one experience with a mako, and I cannot imagine seeing 3 of them coming up at you. But
if you think a king mackerel can jump, a mako can jump.
Oh yeah, this thing came. This thing when we fought it the first 2 times, it jumped over 2 different lines, and I don't know how it didn't get hung in them, but we ended up getting it in. But it jumped across 2 lines and kept running.
Yeah, I'm talking about that. I mean, they can get like 20 feet of air,
but they taste good too,
and they're good. Yeah, and they're good to eat.
And there's a reason for that.
Yeah, because they don't pee through their skin.
That's right. They don't filter that.
They have a bladder.
They have a bladder.
Yeah, almost all sharks don't have a bladder. There's only a couple that do. I think the bonnet has a bladder. We'll have to look that up.
I hear bonnethead tastes good, but
I've never eaten one, but I know people that have, and so I think it's the bonnethead and it's the mako. There may be more. We need a producer here that can Google that for us.
I'm Googling it.
Okay.
I'm Googling it.
Which sharks have bladders?
Yep.
But I know that the mako does not pee through its skin. Almost all sharks pee through its meat and through its skin, and there's urea in the meat, and it tastes bad. But the mako is a very good eating fish.
Well, swim bladder in a shark. There you go. That's our good. No, not swim bladder. It's a
bladder.
Bladder, yeah.
Bladder.
Because, everybody talks about picking up a sharp nose or a black tip, and you rub your hand on it, and
stinks.
It stinks. It smells just like urine.
Yeah.
Unlike many bonefish, sharks do not have a swim bladder. Oh, no, wrong kind of bladder.
Wrong kind of bladder. We need to talk about my Costa Rica fishing experience.
Oh my God! All right, so I'm definitely. We need to talk about that. So all right, so it's going to take me too long to look through there. We'll find it. So you went to Costa Rica when I went to Gatlinburg. You got to go fishing, and of course you were on the West Coast or the West or East Coast.
We're on the Pacific side. Yep, the West Coast side.
Now, is that the best fishing in Costa Rica?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I know they've got some. I know that the tarpon fishery is really big on the East Coast. I've heard now that the tarpon fishery is getting good on the West Coast because there has been this breeding population that came through the Panama Canal and has been increasing in size and scope on the West Coast. But the West Coast, fantastic for sailfish, black marlin, blue marlin, spearfish, and yellowfin, and mahi. I mean, they've got a fantastic pelagic fishery there. And we decided to go check it out a few weeks ago. And so I wanted to bring this. This was really the topic we wanted to talk about. We sort of got sidetracked today. But this was really the topic we wanted to talk about, was sort of give some advice on Costa Rica if anybody's interested in ever venturing that way. I do a lot of fishing all over the world. But one of the things I do not like to do when fishing all over the world, I just personal, I do not like headboats. I do not like to be with 30 other people. And I really don't even like big sporties, quite honestly, Ingles. Right. I'm not a big sporty guy. I mean, I fished on a bunch of big sporties, but I don't like it. I don't feel like I'm part of the process. You know, I want to be part of the process. I want to be hands-on. I don't want a mate hooking fish for me and handing me the rod, or maybe not even handing me the rod, showing me my fish when it's done. I'm just not into that. And if that's you, that's fine. No criticism whatsoever. But I want to be on smaller boats with guys that really know what they're doing.
Right. Because
I want to know the local techniques and tactics and bait, and I want to know all that. But I want to participate. And so we found a boat, and it's a funny name, but the boat name is the Wet Ass 2.
There you go. I love it.
Okay. There obviously was a Wet Ass 1 at one point in time.
Yep.
But the Wet Ass 2, it's an old battle wagon Bertram, 31-foot Bertram. But I talked to these guys. I asked them a lot of questions. They knew exactly what they were doing. They had top-notch gear, rods, reels, line was all new on everything. Crimps were perfect. Bait looked perfect. I watched the mate rigging bait. He knew exactly what he was doing. They were doing a really, really good job. Captain knew what he was doing. And so even though we were on a cheaper boat, saved money, number one, right. We were on a cheaper boat, we were in the cockpit, or we were in the back of the boat, we were in the fishing.
And by the way, the pictures looked like you had plenty of room.
Yeah, well, we did. I mean, it was a 31 Bertram, but we had plenty of room. But we were amongst the fishing. We weren't sitting inside watching TV, in the air conditioning. We were amongst the fishing, and the fishing was good. Right off the rip, we caught my son, who's only 6, reeled about a 50-pound dolphin, bull mahi, all by himself. I mean, I held the rod for him, but he reeled him from where he hit all the way to the boat. I was very proud of him. But right off the rip, 50-pound bull mahi, and then the billfish hit. Let me back up.
Now, were you watching schools of bait? Was the captain seeing schools of bait? Or, were I've heard so many stories down there about finding, the billfish on schools of bait and everything else.
There was lots of different pods of like frigate birds that you'd see, and they'd dive on bonita or whatever they were diving on there, sardines, and we'd troll around those. We never found the spinner dolphin where we were, which is where the tuna, the big yellowfins follow the spinner dolphin. But we stayed in a little town called Playa Grande, which was just south of Tamarindo on the west coast. And then we took a taxi from Tamarindo, or from Playa Grande, to a little fishing village called Flamingo, which was about 30 minutes away, 30 minutes south of that. And we fished out of a marina in Flamingo. And we took that boat maybe 20 miles from Flamingo, but we ran down the coast. And we only fished about 4 or 5 miles off the beach of where we were staying.
Yeah.
So I could see our beach where we were staying at the house in Playa Grande. We were only maybe 4 miles off the beach where we were fishing. Wow. So bull dolphin right off within 15 minutes, nice bull dolphin in the boat. And then we started seeing the billfish. We had 1, 2, 3 sailfish raise, all within about 15 minutes of each other, and hooked one, jumped him, and then we caught the marlin, okay? And we caught a whopper of a black marlin. He came into the bait, all lit up, I mean, black back. I mean, but look, to me, I mean, he was 15 feet from the back of the boat when he ate. I fed him a bait, and we had teasers out, obviously, and he came up knocking teasers around, throwing teasers around, which was just incredible to see that big of a fish 15 feet behind the boat throwing teasers around. And I fed him a bait, big horse ballyhoo, and he ate the bait, and I set the hook, and I didn't really, like at the time, know how big he was. And then about 30 seconds after I set the hook, I think he finally realized he was hooked.
And you did.
And I did. And it was on a 30 wide, by the way.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. And when he came out the water, he was maybe 50 yards away from us when he came out the water the first time. And everybody on the boat said, holy crap. That's the biggest marlin I've ever seen in person. And we fought him for 4 hours. A good solid 4 hours.
Oh, wow.
My father-in-law's on the boat, who's, close to 70.
You left that part out. I didn't know y'all fought it for that long.
Yeah, his buddy was on the boat, who's up there as well. And they spent 15 minutes apiece in the harness and then gave up the harness and then gave it to me. So, I got 3.5 hours.
Oh, there you go.
I got 3.5 hours, and they had 30 minutes combined.
Now the truth comes out.
Which was fine. I mean, but 3.5 hours, it was hot. They were pouring water on me and pouring water on the reel. And but a good, solid, I don't know. I mean, like my guess would have been 800 pounds. The mate said that was the biggest black marlin he'd ever seen there.
Now, black marlin are the biggest of marlins.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, they are the granders are typically going to be,
Yeah, he said the mate who'd been mating there in Costa Rica for 20 years said that's the biggest black marlin he'd ever seen. And so anyway, 3.5 hours, 4 hours into it, we touched the leader, and he popped off. And so never got a picture by the boat, but I got some video of him jumping, which, video from 100 yards away or 200 yards away, it never does it justice. But when he first jumped right behind the boat, it was a sea monster. I mean, it was an absolute sea monster. I don't know English.
Did he do the jump where he gets on top and just stays on top and kept,
No, he hounded. He did the hounding. So
he greyhounded.
He'd jump and then he'd jump and then he'd jump and then he'd jump. He'd do that greyhounding thing that they do. And he came up and tail walked once, but I mean, it was such a big fish. I don't know, his weight wouldn't support tail walking very well.
It's amazing how much area they cover when they greyhound. You see him greyhound, and then you say, "Oh, he's getting ready to come back up," and then next thing he comes up like another 150 yards away.
Oh yeah, well you can be reeling towards the back of the boat, and then the fish will jump 90 degrees, that way, or even off the bow somewhere, and you're like, "Holy crap! Why is he way up there?" And so, that tends to happen with billfish. But this fish was just an incredible piece of God's creation.
Sea monster.
I don't know how to describe it any other way. Just a giant fish.
It's a sea monster.
It is a sea monster. I would guess 11 foot long.
So black marlin, pretty much are going to be in the Pacific. You're not going to find them over in the.
Yeah, I mean, you find them off of Australia. You find them off the Pacific coast. But
Hawaii.
Yeah, Hawaii. But a big old giant fish. And the problem, I told my father-in-law before we go, I said, marlin are fun to catch, but traditionally if we catch them at home, we cut them off. Yeah, you run the rod to the bow of the boat, you run the boat straight to the fish, and you try to pull them loose. I said the same thing. I mean, if you catch 100 or a 200-pound fish, that's great. But if you catch an 800-pound fish, the best thing to do is just break him off. We didn't break him off. We worked him all the way to the boat. And the good thing about that is you get the experience. The bad thing about that is it eats up half your day of fishing. So by the time we were finished with that fish, we actually hooked one more, a blue that was maybe 300 pounds, and he jumped off right behind the boat. And then we were done. Yep. I mean, if we'd have been able to fish all day long without working that fish, I don't know how the day would have been, but had a fantastic day fishing. My son, who's only 6.
That's great. Way to go, Tripp.
He did great on the boat. Didn't feel bad. He slept a little bit. Didn't feel bad. He worked the fish on his own. Scenery was beautiful. You got mountains in the background there just sort of popping up out the ocean. these big pinnacles, big green jungle pinnacles that sort of pop up out of the ocean.
Yep. So you're not looking at hotels all along the coastline.
No, you're not looking at hotels. It's a great place to fish. I highly recommend it to anybody. Not hard to get to, you know.
Is there some inshore fishing that's available there, or is that?
There is. Those same guys offer inshore fishing, and that's rooster fish is the primary. I mean,
Right.
they got big cubera too.
Yep.
He said we catch really big cubera here, but big cubera, big rooster fish. And I would highly recommend doing it.
Rooster fish is more another that you release. You don't eat them.
Yeah.
Right? That's a prized catch, but it's
Yeah.
a released fish.
It's a sport fish, yeah.
And they love rough water, don't they? And nasty, jagged rocks and
right up
everything
beside
like
the
that.
rocks, yeah.
You have to fish for them in dangerous spots, from what I've seen in the past.
Currents and rocky, from what I can tell. But everything looks like that there to me. I mean, there's like, jagged stone granite cliffs, that have jungle growing right up to the beach.
Yep.
And then you'll have a little stretch, 300-yard wide stretch of sand where there's a beach. And then it'll be jagged cliffs on the other side of that. So really beautiful scenery. But there seems to me, driving through back to the marina, 20 miles or so, maybe 18 miles or so is driving between all those cliffs and, big pinnacles and stuff. That's the whole time that you're driving through. Very rarely are you out in open ocean until you get right to almost the fishing grounds right out. As soon as you clear the mountains and the pinnacles, you're basically in the fishing grounds. 1,000 feet of water was three miles off the beach.
Well, so do they have? All right. So so I thought bone fishing was big in Costa Rica in some spots. Is that not? No, you went further north of there.
I don't know about bone fishing off Costa Rica. I know
It sounds like they don't have the coastline for it. Typically that's going to be your big flats and things of that nature.
I don't know if they've got them any. Where I was, it would not have been the right territory for it. There's no flats to speak of. It's a totally different thing from the Caribbean side.
Did you get to go do any treetop canopy tours or anything?
We did. We went to a national park. We hired a private driver, and we went to a national park, and we did tubing down a river, which was very interesting. It was pretty. You got to see monkeys and stuff, and there was a group of maybe 20 or 30 people that tubed with us. But everybody sits on their own little inner tube, and you go down these rapids. And it was fun. It was a 2-hour rapid tour riding through these rapids on your own little tube.
That would have been fun.
It was fun. If you're a big guy, sometimes you tend to topple out of these little things, and you got to swim through the rapids, which is not advisable. And then we went. We had lunch there in the national park, which was great. Great food everywhere. Everywhere we were had great food. And then we did the treetop zip lining, and everybody, even the kid. I've got a 6-year-old boy and a 9-year-old little girl.
And they got to do it too?
They did everything. They did the tubing and the zip lining, and they did great. And everybody had a fantastic time. And then we went to some hot springs and like a little volcano tour. And everybody had a great time. It was good. It was a good trip, and I'd highly recommend it. Real easy
There's a lot of waterfalls
for
over
us
there too, right?
Yeah.
Is that yeah?
Yep, there are a lot of waterfalls. Easy trip. I think from Atlanta, we flew out of Charlotte. It was just direct from Charlotte, and I think it was like 4 hours direct from Charlotte. Real
That's
easy.
insane. That's quick.
Real easy. Yeah, real
That
easy.
is quick. Where you were, is that similar? Where's our Costa Rican trip that we're going to be offering people the chance at?
It's not far from there.
Okay, I thought so. We'll talk about that in a minute, but I thought it was going to be close to that.
Yep.
But, we have a new client in the magazine, by the way, who owns a hotel in Costa Rica too, K-Rays. The bar at the Waka Wachee Marina.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she owns a hotel over there. She is actually about 2 miles from the ocean, she was telling me, 2 or 3 miles, and it's all uphill.
Yeah.
She's on top of the hill.
Yeah.
And she's not a fan of the monkeys.
Yeah. Oh, nobody is, I don't think.
She is not a big fan of the monkeys. She tells some good stories about the monkeys. She does not like when the monkeys show up.
Yeah.
Happy hour at her bar is really big, and the monkeys tend to know when happy hour is, and they can make it unenjoyable.
Oh yeah.
And there's a name for them. Are they hollers? Not hollers. What is the name of the monkey?
They're called white face something. White face monkeys. I don't remember.
But anyway, yeah, she's got a place over there, and she'll be back there in October and stay there through March, and then be back here running K-Rays. But
what's the name of her hotel? We can plug it. Do you know?
no, I'm gonna find it right here.
Okay.
Yeah, because I do want to plug it. It's a everybody I know that's been over there has absolutely a lot of people from here. A lot of people here know K-Ray. They've all been over there, and oh, look at there. And they say it's incredible. It's, believe it or not, it's called K-Ray's Irish Pub and Inn. And I'll tell you where it is.
An Irish pub in Costa Rica.
There you go. It is in Finca Don Cielo. Finca Don Chilo, Provincia de Guanacaste.
Guanacaste. Yeah.
Yep.
Guanacaste is not far from there.
Nozara.
Yeah. Well,
sorry.
English needs to work on his Spanish a little
Sorry.
bit. But yeah, Guanacaste is not.
English needs to work on his Spanish as most
Yeah,
people say.
yeah.
English needs to work on his Spanish. That's how everybody pronounces my name.
Anyway, go check it out. Costa
Check it
Rica,
out.
great place
K-Ray's
to
Irish
be.
Pub and Inn. Yeah, Facebook page and website looks awesome.
There's a couple places I've been in the last year that are just highly recommended. Belize and just a new emerging fishery for Westerners in Belize, especially in the like Placencia area. To me, I think that's a must do at some point in time. And this Costa Rica, I mean, obviously not emerging. Everybody's known about Costa Rica West Coast fishing for a long time, but still not touristy, not real touristy. Where we were at least, not touristy, plenty of fish, easy access. I'd highly recommend it.
Now, times of the year where it's better. It sounds like everybody I talk to talks about wintertime. I mean, maybe it's because they're just trying to get away from here, but the wintertime fishery is supposed to be incredible down there.
What I heard from the mate was the only bad time is the rainy season, and the rainy season is September and October would be the peak of the rainy season. And I don't think it's bad for fishing. I think it's just bad for weather.
Okay.
But he said fishing's pretty much good year round.
So they get a lot of rain in September.
September and October, they get a lot of rain. Yeah, so, I mean, you might want to avoid it, or heck, that might be an excuse to go. If you want to stay away from the crowds or get good deals, I'm sure they're offering good deals in September and October. But if fishing is your primary concern, you may get blown out a couple of days.
Now, your next trip coming up, we've talked about, I think, is out west, right?
Yeah, I'm headed. I've got a first season rifle tag for elk, which is October 15th through the 20th.
Now, it'll already be cold as heck out there then.
In the evening, well, yeah, I mean, it just depends on
And this is in Colorado.
It's in western slope of Colorado. I killed a bull last year, and I killed a bull the year before that. But the year before that I killed a bull, it snowed on us the morning that I killed him. So if that gives you some indication, it can snow. Traditionally, it's like in the 40s in the morning time and 60s in the afternoon. Last year, about like that, but the year before that, it snowed on us, so it can get cold for sure. And then 2 weeks later, I drew a second season rifle for mule deer. So I'm going, I'll be there for a week, taking a week off, and then I'll be there for a week.
Have you killed a mule deer out there?
I have, but there's not one in the Trilogy Outdoor studio here.
I got an elk over me and an elk across from me. This one, I've gotten up close and personal with both of these, by the way.
You have. You've been impaled.
I've got marks that show it, but
yeah.
So the mule deer both of them are going to be a stalking hunt, even with the rifle, right? It's a stalking.
It's spot and stalk. The mule deer is a little different tactics than the elk. The elk will still be bugling. In at least where I'm hunting, they have been the last 2 years. They're still bugling. It's on the tail end of the rut, but they're still bugling, so you can locate them, especially early in the morning and late in the evening. You'll locate them because you can hear their bugles. and you sort of get in their kitchen and start glassing around in their kitchen. And when you find them, put a spot and a stalk on them, and you can still call. And the bulls are still a little bit curious about cow calling that time of year. So if you can ever get a first season rifle tag, it's a great time to go, especially if you're not hunting in the real high country. If you're hunting in the real high country, the rut's done by then.
So first season archery tag was what you had last year.
No, I had, let's see, last year. I think I had a rifle tag last year, too.
Okay, it was rifle? Okay,
Yeah.
I thought you, okay.
Yeah. I had a rifle tag last year, too, and killed a nice, I think I killed that bull last year.
Yeah, and then a bear to go with it.
And then I killed a bear to go with it, which I would not recommend.
Especially if you're by yourself.
Especially if you're by
Are you going by yourself again this year?
No, it sounds like my buddy Rick
Good job, Rick.
is going to go.
Good job, Rick.
Don't
send him out there by himself.
My lawyer buddy Jim Giese may join us. He says that he may end up having, his son is in medical school in Wisconsin, and so he may end up going to see him in October. But if not, yeah, we may have a crowd, maybe 3 of us.
And you'll be doing everything outdoors, or you stay at a lodge, or what do y'all do?
So it just depends on where the elk are, what they're doing. If they're down low, then we'll probably stay in the valley at a hotel and then hike up in the mornings. If they're up high, then, we may end up camping. But I was getting into the differences, and I got sidetracked. The differences for me, at least, in the areas that I hunt for elk, it is more like an elk hunt, what you would see on TV, as opposed to the mule deer hunt, which is literally getting to the highest point you can get to and glassing. Yeah, it's very different from the elk hunt. The elk hunt's a little more interactive. The mule deer hunt, traditionally what the mule deer are doing is they're feeding down low in alfalfa fields or whatever in the mornings, and then they come up in mid-morning to go to bed. And what you want to do is you want to catch them on the way to or from bed, right? So in the morning times, you're going to catch them coming up in the hills. In the afternoon, you're going to catch them going down from the hills. And you want to try, and you may be amongst them. I mean, you may see 5, 6, 7, 8 different bucks in the morning and in the afternoon, sort of funneling through within shooting range.
Right.
And you're furiously looking at these little patches of deer. Oh, there's a buck. Not quite a shooter. Oh, there's a buck. It might be a shooter. Nope, there's another buck. And so you're sort of trying to triage, or
right, which one you want to put the time in on.
Which one you want to put the time in on, and whether or not you can get to a point. And the other thing is whether or not if you kill him, you can get him out of there. Right? I mean, there are some little draws and places where it wouldn't be ethical to shoot one because he falls down in that stuff. And
right.
I mean, heck, he might fall down on private land. He might tumble down that hill on the private land, or he might tumble down into the bottom of a rock ravine that you don't want to get into or you don't want to get him out of. And so you got to think about all that stuff, and all that comes together.
So you'll be hunting the same area. You'll be hunting the same areas for the elk that you do for the mule deer?
It'll be within 3 miles of each other. But
really? Okay.
Yeah. But a little different terrain. Yeah, a little different terrain.
Now, is that because of a license, or is that because of what they like? I mean,
no, it's just because of what the elk like. Yeah. So, I mean, they do cross paths. The elk and the mule deer do cross paths. They live in some of the same stuff. But where I like to hunt the elk is this time of year for first season rifle. I like to hunt them lower in elevation because they're still on the tail end of that rut. And so I like to hunt them down in the valleys and, where near a water source. And so you can still kind of get the tail end of that rut where they're whistling, and you can sort of track them that way, but much thicker. You got a lot of willows, and you got a lot of thick vegetation, Russian olives. And so it's an up close and personal experience. I mean, the longest shot you're going to have there is going to be about 100 yards on an elk, amongst all that thick vegetation and stuff. And so it's an up close and personal, interactive experience. The mule deer, which is 2 or 3 miles from there, I mean, you can see miles.
That's crazy.
Miles and miles and miles. And so you can spot a deer 3, 4, 5 miles away. you might not know what it is 5 miles away, but you can spot a herd of deer from 5 miles away and say, oh, well, we need to check that out.
Have you got roadways up there that you're able to travel in the truck to look, or is it all walking?
No,
All spotting. When you do your spot and stalk, are you having to walk, or are you able to drive? Coming from a guy who watches it on the outdoor shows, I see him drive around and stop and then look, drive around and stop and look. Are you pretty much having to work and walk? And
there are about 3 different locations within 100,000 acres that I like to deer hunt. Okay, so what I will do is I'll drive to that one location
and then get out.
And then I'll get out and I'll walk and I'll check that whole area. And if I don't see a buck I like, I'll get back in the truck, drive to the next location, walk for a couple hours, check that. And if there's not a buck, go to the third location. And if I don't see a buck in one of those, then I'll go to the top, the highest peak that I can find, and I'll sit there pretty much all day long. And I may move to the next peak over or the next peak over, but I'm planning on being in the hills all day long. If I don't see a buck right off the bat that I like, then I'm just going to pick what I think is the most likely place, and I'm going to be in those hills all day long, eating a sandwich, drinking a drink with my pair of binoculars, looking for a big buck. And eventually you'll see one funneling through. It's just a matter of whether or not you can get to him and he's the right buck.
Well, when we were on our trip to Gatlinburg, I did get 10 feet away from 2 elk.
We were talking about this earlier. The elk population on the East Coast is really starting to boom.
Yeah.
And I know
that's what they're saying where we were. I talked to some people that said they were telling us a story about a couple bachelor bulls, which is what they need to apparently increase the herd or open up new herds or build new herds.
Yeah.
That 2 bachelor bulls last year decided to go from Okaloosa, where we were, and they went all the way through the national forest and were over at Sugarland, which is on the other side at Gatlinburg, and they know their herds there. Obviously the rangers, see them all the time, and then those bulls turned around and came back last year. They're hoping that they'll make that same trip this year, and possibly if, they can find the right thing on the other side, that they'll stay over there and start another herd over there. But the herd at Cades Cove has apparently gotten bigger up there now.
Well, I know that Kentucky's got a hunting season for them. I think Tennessee's got a hunting season for them.
They do, and Pennsylvania.
For some reason, I feel like West Virginia's got one now. It can't be long before North Carolina's got one, because North Carolina's population's booming. Every time somebody rides on Blue Ridge Parkway, you
see one.
There's a million cars parked watching them, graze on the side of the road or cross the road. So, and they've got some pretty big bulls. I think those, if I'm not mistaken, I think that population came from Canada. Yeah. And so, they've got some big bulls. They've got some good genetics. They just, they've been waiting. I hope they've been waiting on the population to get big enough to, to be a huntable population.
Yeah. So I read about you're the one that told me about them being from Canada, but I did read about the couple young bulls that were making that move, all the way through the forest. Which is, a lot of elevation change between, over on Cherokee side all the way to Gatlinburg. You got to go through all that, all through the gap up there. So they made a substantial trip to get over there, and then, obviously they turned around and went back. They found them over there, but man, it was crazy. As soon as they are out, all the traffic starts pulling over, and as soon as we started seeing all the tail lights, I was like, yes, we're going to get to see it. We were on our way home.
Yeah.
Yes, we're going to get to see some elk, and of course there was no bull. But
it was all cows.
It was all cows, and I was fine with that. But it's just amazing how big they are. Literally, I got some great pictures. We were 10 feet. She didn't pay us any attention. She was just, and the one that was facing away from me, she just kept kind of doing her thing, walking away. And then there was another one that had just walked in, that was walking into the woods, but everybody pulled over, rolled their window down, hollering at her, talking to her, taking pictures, videoing.
Yeah.
And then, they just paid no attention.
They're used to it.
Now the bears, where we were in Gatlinburg, the bears were, let me put it lightly. We did not spend much time in the front of our house. We had a mother, which would be a sow, correct, in bears. Sow and 4 cubs. We had
She's a prolific little thing, or just very fertile, I guess. Because I saw the pictures you sent, and all 4 of those cubs look like the same year.
Yep.
So she's done well.
So we had at least 1 or 2 young male bears, and then I don't know how many others that we got to see while we were there. But I got video with the drone, which is one of my best videos that I've ever done with the drone. I flew the drone down and didn't want to harass, get too close, but I did fly down the valley right behind and followed. That time was one of the young males. Followed him through a backyard. Of course, he went up the car doors, and they told us, like, hey, make sure you lock your car door. Like, don't just close it. Don't think they can't get in. And we watched him lean up and do the handles and go all the way around the car several times. And then, I mean, it was just amazing. It was clockwork every night, like every afternoon or every morning. You'd see them, and they'd come down, and like they came in our yard and went right by Kim's car, leaned up on her car. They went to Lucas's stroller, and Lucas had left a bag of, because he pulled the stroller out, had a bag of goldfish in the stroller.
Didn't lie.
She reached in there, she pulled that thing out, and that was I got video out the front window of the house. Mama's out there with the 4 cubs out in the front yard, right out the front door. But we were right in that area where had burnt down in 2016 in that horrific fire. So all the homes there are either brand new or being built. They're inside of 5 years old. But it just has. I mean, there's so many bears in that area, and I feel. I mean, Lucas and I talked about it. Like, you feel terrible for them. Like, I mean, literally, people probably are scared of them, but you don't see, you didn't hear about anybody having any interactions with them other than they tear your car up or tear up your.
That's what I was going to say. I mean,
trash can.
I would be upset if I had a bear scratching on my door every night.
Yeah, and it seems to me that all the porches are built so high that they can't get on the porch.
Yeah, but I mean, my car door. I mean, if you got a nice car or you got a nice truck, and that bear's leaning his paws against your car door every night to try to get in it. Oh, what a mess!
I would say the one house below us, there was 2 different groups that came in while the 7 days we were there. The first group was there. I think I couldn't tell exactly because it was a little far away, but I think it was a Cadillac, one of those nice mid-size SUVs. Yeah, they had to have some extra scratches on them. They had to have. And we saw them the next day, like walking through the parking lot, like it's a gravel parking lot, like they were looking for prints to see how many or whatever. But I had another chance where we had a bobcat right in the middle of all the houses. A bobcat and the bear were like right in the same backyard out back.
I'd have to teach that bear some manners.
Yeah, they don't care. It was crazy, but we didn't. We had a great time. Didn't get to enjoy the fishing quite like you did. Only fishing I did was trying to catch my drone in the stream, and I was unsuccessful. But I have a new one. Thank the Lord, I have a new one. Thank you, Best Buy.
I thought you were going to do some trout fishing while you were down there.
We were, and when Lucas got pushed back, well, we encountered, I'll be honest with you, we had terrible weather. We were supposed to leave on Friday, come home Friday, and once we saw the weather forecast that Friday and Saturday were going to end up being the 2 prettiest days of the week, we extended it out 2 nights. But we did have a lot of rain. We actually, could go do something real quick, like even – we went and did all the tourist stuff, but we went and rode those mountain coasters, which are fun, I will say. The mountain coasters, and we did it in between rainstorms. We just sat there, and it stopped raining. We'd run, go get in line, and ride it, and then come back. So we really had, while they were here having beautiful weather at the beach, y'all were, or they were, you weren't here either. They were having beautiful weather here. We were on the outside edge of that Bermuda High that was in, and so it was just rain, thunderstorms, like horrific thunderstorms up there, which the view from that porch, I didn't really mind it. I mean, except we had young kids who wanted to go do stuff. So, yeah. But it was beautiful up there. I love Gatlinburg. I love going up there. I know it's the Myrtle Beach of the mountains, and we went and did a caverns, which I sent. You've not responded to my text I sent you.
I didn't get a text.
I'll mention it after the podcast, but yeah. So they won't. I've got the contact info for you, but so they have a fossil, and they have a showcase that they sell fossils and things in the front, and they have some things that you know about and do good with that they would like to talk to you about. But it was Really, really fun trip. Lucas, we did it with all the kids. We took little Eddie. It's a 1.5 mile walk, round trip, underground, and beautiful. And I'm really gonna kick myself in the butt for not remembering. See which hat I got on. For not remembering the name of it, but it is the largest indoor caverns in the southeastern U.S. And it was beautiful. We all enjoyed it. It was an easy walk. There was 2 different areas that were a little dangerous. You had to really, like even you and I, as short as we are, have to duck. But other than that, everything else was really wide open, safe passages. But I will share the name of it. And I'm embarrassed that I cannot remember the name of it. But it was beautiful.
All right. So before we close out,
Yeah.
do we want to introduce the?
Yes, we want the Grand Strand Fishing Rodeo. We've talked about it. We've teased it. So we are. My objective is to have it live on our website at Trilogy Outdoors Media on what's the date of next? Monday? Basically Labor Day. The afternoon of Labor Day is when I want to.
Okay.
Hang on.
That would be.
By the way, we got a really busy. We need to mention that too.
Monday, September 5th.
The 5th. It's going to be live. Now, here's the thing. Stephen mentioned we kind of teased the Costa Rican trip. So we're going to have monthly challenge, monthly fish species that are going to be your qualifying weights, your way to qualify. You win the monthly species for, say, this month coming up is black sea bass. You have the largest black sea bass. You're going to get put in. First off, you're going to get invited to our banquet. I'm going to call it celebration, conservation, or whatever we want to call it, because we are partnering with CCA in this.
Yep.
You're going to get invited to our banquet, and you're going to have a chance to win a choice of trips, I think we have decided.
Yeah, we're going to figure out how to do that, but we have 2 trips that will be. I like to think of them as grand prizes, but we're going to think about how to do that, who gets those trips. But one is to Costa Rica.
Yep.
We have a fantastic house that has been donated to this.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yep.
Thank you. CCA is donating a house in Costa Rica for a week for you to go fishing and zip lining and tubing and whatever else you want to do. And the other trip is being donated by us, by Trilogy Outdoors. And that is either a photo safari to South Africa or a management hunt safari to South Africa. Of course, if you want to, you can upgrade it to trophy hunt or dangerous game or whatever you want to do. But if you're not the hunting type, you can go on a photo safari, take your wife and the kids.
Whoever the winner ends up being in that, we're going to have to just let them talk to you, because you're going to be the one to be able to tell them the difference. I mean,
I can, but
with your experience,
really fantastic prizes. I mean, we're going to have fishing rods and coolers and everything you can imagine, all the way up to either a safari or a trip to Costa Rica. So all you got to do is get on the Trilogy Outdoors Media website and sign up. It's only $10, English?
$10.
It's only $10 to sign up. So if you come into Myrtle Beach or Murrells Inlet or Georgetown or really anywhere, you ought to sign up.
All right, let's add something in. Make sure everybody knows, and this is the one part that I really like about it, is that we are including freshwater in it.
That's right.
We are including freshwater. Our good buddy Ronald Stalby's already set up over there at Stalby's Bait and Tackle. It's going to be one of our weigh-in locations in Conway. But so we're going to do catfish and we're going to do panfish. And what I'm probably going to do is throw in crappie too, and separate that from your panfish, brim, shell cracker, and all that. So we'll have a crappie. It'll be a different species. It'll be the same 3 every month. Okay, so if you win. Obviously, the catfish this month, you'll be in the drawing. You can win it next month, you'll be in the drawing. Guess what? The more you get your name in, the more chances you have to win. So that is the objective. And, here's the other thing. You're always going fishing. You're going to be out there. Sign up. Get on there. You'll get a registration card. Our weigh stations will be able to take your registration number once they weigh your fish for you. You'll need to get us a picture, and all that will be in the rules. You'll need us a picture of your card on the boat. That's it. That's the one thing you need. And that's why, I mean, we're just going to, you can't go out there today and catch a big fish and go, oh, I need to sign up for this. Come back and sign in.
Right.
You'll have to have a picture with that. Everybody's got a social media. We're not going to do anything, hand signs or nothing like that. We just want a picture of you, your card, and your catch. So
easy peasy.
Easy peasy. We are not nailed down on where that awards and celebration conservation party is going to be, but I have narrowed it down to 2 places, and Steve and I should have been more prepared to you. I'm not going to mention either one of them, but have it nailed down to 2, and we've got to just discuss the specifics on both of those and figure out which one works best, but we're going to have a great time with that, and we'll share more details on that as we go, but you need to get signed up quick. Like I said, Monday the 5th, it'll be live in the afternoon. Get signed up starting the 6th, and you're in. One thing before we get out of here. This weekend, and I'm going to have this podcast up today, but this weekend is the World Spanish Mackerel Championship in Murrells Inlet. Now, we do have one of the most prolific Spanish mackerel fisheries along the southeast, and this time of the year, a lot of big Spanish show up. An incredible tournament has been here over the last couple of years. This year took a year off. Myself, Seth Williams, Jason Burton, Chris Conklin, and Special Operation Wounded Warriors decided we wanted to have the tournament go on. So we are really putting this thing together fast. We can't thank Marshall's Marine and Key West Boats enough for coming on and helping us with being able to guarantee the prizes that we're going to guarantee for first place. Chris Conklin, 7C Seafood, thank you for sponsoring our youth anglers. Patrick Sparks at Sparks Toyota, thank you for sponsoring our lady anglers. And Ronald Stovey for sponsoring our King TWT Above and Beyond. We're going to be adding $300 extra into that. But lots of great prizes. Captain's meeting is Friday the 26th at Uncle Tito's in Murrells Inlet. And the fishing will be on the 27th. And the weigh-in over at Crazy Sister Marina with our good friend Seth Williams over there. So get signed up for that. Come out and see us Friday. We'll be there at 4 till 7 at the Uncle Tito's in Murrells Inlet, right across from Crazy Sister. And then go fishing. Now, I got to talk you into it somehow or another so you can go out there and represent us.
I think we're going to go. I've got to figure out the kids and the wife situation.
I know how that goes. Trust me.
If I can figure that out, I will be out there. Of course, I have no tackle. I haven't Spanish fished in 20 years.
All right, so you've got good friend. You've got a real good friend named Jay Bache that you have become really good friends with. That if you stop by there and talk to him, I promise you he will point you in the right direction and get you all set up.
I don't even have any gear, though.
You don't need it. You got spinning rods?
I got 30 wides and 50 wides, but I've got no Spanish rods.
All right, wait a minute. So
I got no nothing.
You got tarpon rods?
I do have tarpon rods.
That's all you need. Now, that's the easy way. That's getting out the easy way.
But I don't live bait for Spanish. That's not my traditional way of catching Spanish.
I know. Well, you can catch them the other way. It's just a matter of which size you'll catch.
Oh, come on.
No. You can catch them with dead bait, too. I'll tell you, I've caught some of my biggest Spanish trolling dead cigar minnows, in king areas. And that's the thing. We put a limit, 20 nautical miles out of Murrells Inlet jetties. That's basically Georgetown. We're going to call it Georgetown jetties and the tide line to Little River. Basically, it's in that range. It may be a little short of Little River jetties, but it's not really. Most people are going to be fishing right in this area. And for a well-known reason. There was a lot of big Spanish mackerel being caught here.
Yeah.
Justin Witten caught 4 over 7 pounds 2 weeks ago. And he was king fishing and caught them. So, you don't have to go out there and spend all that time doing what we do. You can catch them. And the tournament has been won inside of Murrells Inlet before in the past. Jay Bache won it at the mouth of Oaks Creek one year. A lot of money at the mouth of Oaks Creek. But the weather looks beautiful. Going to have, bring your rain gear. But the winds are, and that's why you would, when you texted me about going fishing on Saturday, the winds do look awesome, except we got that little bit of east-northeast, or anytime you put that NE in the wind, it's going to end up being a little bit worse. But it's 5 to 8 miles an hour, so can't be too bad. So y'all come out and enjoy us. So go to Facebook. It's the Spanish Mackerel World Championships. We got our page on there. All the information there if you go there and check it out. And anything else there? Any parting words, partner?
I don't think so. Look forward to seeing everybody.
All right, y'all. Listen, we'll get this thing up, and don't forget, go click on that subscribe button and download. And every week, every new podcast will be right there waiting for you. And put those earbuds in, and when you're out on the road or working or go to the yard to cut the yard or fishing, listen to us. And we hope you're enjoying it. So until next week, hey, if it's fins, fur, and feathers, you're going to find it right here on Trilogy Outdoors.
Trilogy Outdoors Podcast is a product of Trilogy Outdoors Media. All views and opinions of our hosts and guests are not necessarily those of our sponsors. Trilogy Outdoors is produced and edited by Trilogy Outdoors Media. Be sure to follow us on all the podcast platforms as well as our social media pages on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And also don't forget our other brands, Southern English Radio Show and Walk 'Em All Outdoor Magazine. To find more information, visit TrilogyOutdoorsMedia.com. And remember, if it's anything dealing with fins, fur, and feathers, you're going to find it right here on Trilogy Outdoors.